You are standing at Giza, and you assume you know what you are looking at. The oldest wonder of the ancient world, the first pyramid humanity ever built, stones stacked by a civilization still finding its footing. That assumption is wrong, and the truth changes the shape of the whole story. The Great Pyramid was completed around 2560 BCE under the pharaoh Khufu, but the first pyramid in Egypt had already been standing for roughly a century before Khufu was even born. Stranger still, the people who built it were not trying to build a pyramid at all. By the time construction crews broke ground at Giza, the pyramid, as an idea, was already old news. What you are about to learn is that the most iconic shape in architectural history was not a flash of genius. It was a mistake that got repeated until it worked, and once you see how, you will never look at a monument the same way again. Go back further, to 2670 BCE, at a site called Saqqara, just south of modern Cairo. Egypt is ruled by a pharaoh named Djoser, third king of the third dynasty. His chief architect is a man named Imhotep, a commoner by birth, a physician and priest by title, and the first architect in recorded history whose name we actually know. At the time, royal tombs in Egypt were mastabas, flat-roofed, rectangular structures of mud brick, low to the ground, built to mark a burial and nothing more. Imhotep starts with exactly that, a single mastaba for Djoser, roughly 8 meters tall. Then he does something no one had done before. He builds a second mastaba directly on top of the first, then a third, smaller than the second, then 3 more after that. 6 layers in total, each one stepping inward, until the structure reaches 62 meters, the tallest building on Earth at the time, and the first monumental structure made almost entirely of cut stone anywhere in the world. Historians call it the Step Pyramid. It is not smooth-sided. It does not look like Giza. It looks exactly like what it is, a tomb that kept growing while it was already under construction, revised again and again until it accidentally became something new. But here's where it gets stranger. Imhotep's breakthrough was not a formula anyone could simply repeat. The next pharaohs tried to copy it, and for decades, Egypt could not get the shape right. Consider Sneferu. He rules Egypt around 2600 BCE, roughly 70 years after Djoser, and he is, by a wide margin, the most prolific pyramid builder in Egyptian history. He attempts 3. 2 of them nearly fail in ways that leave scars still visible today. The first is at Meidum, south of Cairo. Sneferu's architects try to convert a step pyramid into a true smooth-sided one by filling in the steps with limestone casing. The engineering does not hold. The outer layers lose their grip on the core structure, and at some point, either during construction or centuries later, the entire outer shell collapses into a mound of rubble at the base. What stands at Meidum today looks less like a pyramid and more like a stone tower rising out of a debris pile, because that is precisely what it is. Sneferu does not stop. He starts again at a site called Dashur, roughly 40 kilometers north. This time, the builders begin at a steep angle of 54 degrees. Partway up, cracks start appearing in the internal chambers. Limestone beams groan under pressure. The architects panic mid-project and change the angle to 43 degrees for the upper half a correction visible from the ground even today. Modern Egyptologists call it the bent pyramid, and it is the only major pyramid in Egypt with 2 distinct slopes, a permanent record of an engineering team realizing, in real time, that their math was about to kill them. That's not the whole story, though. Sneferu tries a third time. Same site, a fresh foundation, a conservative angle of 43 degrees from the very first stone. No steps, no correction, no collapse. It becomes the Red Pyramid, named for the rust-colored limestone exposed after its white casing was stripped away centuries later. And it is, by every measure historians use, the first true smooth-sided pyramid ever successfully completed. Sneferu spent an estimated 25 years and enough limestone to rival the volume of Khufu's Great Pyramid across 3 separate attempts just to arrive at a shape that worked. Except there was a problem nobody involved could have known about. Sneferu's son was watching all of it happen, and he was about to take his father's expensive, decades-long trial and error and finish the job in a single generation. That son was Khufu. He inherits the throne around 2589 BCE, and he inherits something else too, a solved equation. His father's failures at Meidum and Dashur had already mapped out exactly which angle would hold and which one would crack. Khufu's architects choose 51.8 degrees, and this time, there is no mid-build correction. No collapse, no visible seam of panic in the stonework. The result is the Great Pyramid at Giza, 2.3 million blocks of stone. An average block weighing 2.5 tons. A base so precisely level that the four corners differ in height by less than 2.1 centimeters, a tolerance that modern construction crews with laser levels would be proud of, achieved by workers using sightlines, ropes, and an understanding of the stars. It would remain the tallest human-made structure on Earth for 3,800 years, a record unbroken until the completion of Lincoln Cathedral in England in the year 1311. Here is the detail that reframes everything. Khufu's success was not a leap forward. It was the final payment on a debt his father ran up. Djoser's step pyramid at Saqqara, Sneferu's collapse at Medum, Sneferu's mid-course correction at Dashur, Sneferu's quiet, unglamorous success at the Red Pyramid. 4 structures, 3 generations, and roughly a century of expensive, visible failure, all of it standing between we bury our kings in mud brick boxes and we build the most geometrically precise object in the ancient world. The Great Pyramid does not look like a mistake. That is exactly why it is so easy to forget it was built on top of several. You already do this. Every skill you have that looks effortless, the one thing you do well without thinking, was assembled the same way. Not from a single insight, but from a string of earlier, uglier versions nobody else saw. The drafts, the false starts, the version that cracked halfway through. What you inherited looking finished, someone else paid for in failure. And what looks unfinished in your hands right now might be exactly the version someone else eventually gets to stand on top of.